Welcome to the latest of my deep dive videos. Today I'm going to explore the Capricorn New Moon, which occurs at 28 degrees and 43 minutes across the 18th and the 19th of January. I'll share with you shortly the exact timings for all the major cities of the world. Now, new moons are where we can set our intentions for what we want to achieve, the energies of that particular zodiac sign. And the sign of Capricorn is very much about our worldly interaction, goals and ambitions. But I feel because it's also the sign of culmination, and we're about to have a huge posse of energy pass from Capricorn into the sign of Aquarius, which has begun with Venus's arrival there, and it's linked with Pluto as this event occurs. We're seeing a big celestial shift which goes outside just and every month new moon. There's a much wider implication of where we all are, because the sign of Capricorn is about big business, big government, big institutions. It can be about conventions. It can be about top-down power, and it can also be about our need for success. Nothing wrong with that at all. So I do feel, particularly with Uranus and the ruler of Capricorn, Saturn, the depositor of the sign, linking very beneficially to this new moon, and Mercury, the planet of business, and Mars, exalted in Capricorn, also in the mix. There is a chance to go for it in a very fresh, determined and perhaps innovative way with Uranus's help, but also in a way which is very stabilized by the energy of Saturn. But because we do have the Sun and Mercury joining up with Venus and Pluto on the 20th, another cazimi between them on the 21st, and then between the Sun and Pluto on the 23rd, and Mars arriving in Aquarius on the 23rd too, such as a shift is going on, we need to just widen the lens to understand what this particular new moon is about. I'm going to share with you the event chart from a zodiacal but also natal perspective, and then I'll go through each of the 12 zodiac signs from Aries through to Pisces, which you can relate to in terms of your ascendant, sun or the moon. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundel. Thank you so much for joining me. I so appreciate all your views, likes and comments. If you've yet to subscribe to the channel, please help it to continue to thrive and do so now. On the screen, I'm showing those exact timings. Now you can see in terms of New Delhi and Sydney, it's the 19th of January. But 28 degrees and 43 minutes, what a complex set of synchronicities is being played out. This is the fifth new moon at 28 degrees of that series of 7. But because it's so late in the sign of Capricorn, I think we need to be mindful of the energy of when the Sun arrived in Capricorn, which was on the 21st of December, with the winter solstice in the north and the summer solstice in the south. And that ushered in cardinal quadrant 3, which is very much to do with those Capricornian energies. It is working towards the things that we want to achieve. Not everyone's goals and ambitions are the same. Not everyone wants to move home, build something, or create something that's more structural. Maybe their ambitions are much more creative or much more to do with people. But certainly when the Sun arrived, it was compromised by Saturn and Neptune. And the wonderful thing about this new moon is that Saturn and Neptune are receiving the energies of the new moon in such a positive way. So on the screen now, I'm showing the zodiacal event chart. So you can see there's the Sun and the moon at 28 degrees and 43 minutes. And they're being shadowed by Mars, exalted in Capricorn. Mercury also loves being in Capricorn. It's very much to do with being business-like, Mercury, the marketeer. But look at the position of Saturn and Neptune. They're in a wonderful sextile. But because of the watery nature of the sign of Pisces, and obviously Neptune's coming to the end of its 165-year cycle when it moves back into Aries on the 26th of January, to be joined by Saturn for its second recent visit to Aries on the 14th of January. They come together on the 18th Haven't done that since 1987. On the 18th of February, those two come into a conjunction. But next week, we're going to have on the 20th, Saturn and Uranus forging an exact sextile for the first time since 1997. So some huge outcomes, because the sign of Capricorn is about practical and physical culmination. The sign of Pisces is about emotional and spiritual culmination. So what are we seeing? Is everything in the world that's going on positive? Well, I think we all know the answer to that. So the coming energy of Aquarius in some ways is asking us to hand on the celestial baton from perhaps what has been a preoccupation with the material world since Pluto moved into Capricorn full time in 2008 after its brief visit in 2007. Now, of course, it's now left. In November 2024, it moved into Aquarius for the longer term. But if we have still seen a lot of desire to dominate, to use muscle, to control, very Capricorn in a way, but it's negative energies, because its positive energies are about patience, persistence, tenacity, working towards targets in a very consistent and very applied way. It has great qualities. It's also very much about wisdom and experience. We can't ever look at any planet, any zodiac sign, or any house only in one way. We have to look at it in all its different characteristics. So Capricorn can be very good. So if you've been working on something patiently over a long period of time, you may now reach a golden prize. And that's why this is such a unique new moon. But equally, if you're really finalising some new ideas, whatever they may be, around your ambitions, if you're open to doing things differently because of Uranus forging such a very positive link to this lunation, that open-mindedness can help us to seize opportunities that in the past we may have been a little bit too conservative, Capricorn, to look at. But then again, if we do need to make sure that whatever we're trying to achieve is anchored in reality, Saturn's there to help, but also it's reminding us of the need to keep our humanity, to stay in touch with being sensitive. It isn't all about power, it is about how we use that power. And the coming Aquarius energy, which is so incredibly potent, is asking us to go through a huge reset in how we support, how we network, how we connect with one another, because at the end of the day, the sign of Aquarius is about community. The sign of Capricorn is about convention. It is about who's held the reins, if you like, over a long period of time. So there is a deconstruction going on in this process. There is the opportunity to realise something we've been very hard working towards over a very long period of time, or to go again in a fresh way and be very businesslike. Why not? There's nothing wrong with making a profit, but it should be a profit that's proportionate, and it enables people to have a chance to thrive. We want people to thrive. And of course, the Aquarius energy is bringing a lot to do with technology, robotics, AI, automation, which isn't necessarily going to be good for personkind. So that's something we need to be mindful of, but there is an opportunity for us all as citizens to come together to help perhaps those who haven't benefited from the Pluto in Capricorn age as much as some of us may have done. So that's what I feel this new moon is about. So there it is in that 10th house. If we really want to be ambitious, there's a great chance to go for it. The link to Uranus suggests if we're open-minded, that's very good. And also the link to Saturn and Neptune after their initial resistance to this Capricornian energy as we began this final quadrant of the year with the winter summer solstice on the 21st of December. But then next week we're really going to see that furnace of humanitarian energy coming through Aquarius. Now on the screen now I'm showing the event chart from a Placidus viewpoint based on Greenwich and the prime meridian, not because I'm in the UK, it's because it's where we have the central point that we have time. So I feel that that works very well. Wherever we are in the world, we can see the ascendant is in Virgo, an earth sign. We do have the part of fortune on that ascendant, which looks quite promising. But the cluster of energy includes in the 5th house, which can be playful and creative, also Venus and Pluto. Venus just arrived in Aquarius on the 17th of January, but the 5th house very much more demonstrative, very much more to do with being playful, social, interactive. But what we can do with that Capricorn energy is be serious about that. But what we can also do is use our talents, flair and artistry in a practical, grounded way, Capricorn, to give us some kind of tangible outcome. And it's intriguing that Saturn is in the 8th house, which can be to do with shared finance, can also be to do with long-term financial planning. So if you do decide to do something different and fresh, and it is maybe a way to earn extra money in addition to a main job, or you do want to set up your own business as an entrepreneur, this is a very encouraging chart for sure. I'm going to go through each of the 12 zodiac signs from Aries through to Pisces, but if you've yet to order your personal forecast for year 2026, you can do so now. You'll get 12 full months from the time of order. It's totally unique to you. You're also, through to the end of January, get 50% off the full selling price, and you get my life roadmap report and your free gift of your general love Chinese and Indian written zodiac forecast. Please see the link below for more. So Aries, when I think about this new moon for you, it reminds me of that song by Orange Juice, which was Rip It Up and Start Again. Are you about to rip something up and start again? It wouldn't be a surprise if you were on the cusp of that. Then again, another ram may be really very proud of a lot of hard work over a long period of time, and over the last couple of years really digging in. May not have been easy to work towards some kind of golden prize, but it may be within reach. Then again, it may be that what you want to crystallize in your situation is much more to do with where you live, because the sign of Capricorn is about bricks and mortar, and we all know that whether it's rentals or buying, wherever it is in the world, real estate is a hot topic. There's a lack of available land, a lack of available housing stock, and that pushes the price up, which has made it very, very challenging for a lot of people. But if your longer term hopes are to live somewhere that's more in keeping with your deeper needs, Saturn and Pisces in your 12th house, you could put something in play on this new moon to achieve that might not necessarily happen straight away. So it could be talking to a mortgage advisor, applying to a housing trust, perhaps in some ways thinking about adapting a current property you've got in a physical way, maybe working from home, and you can pitch yourself into the cosmic space from the comfort of your abode, but using technology in a way which comes across as being very authoritative, and you can share a lot of knowledge and talents you have. So there's multiple ways that you can work with this energy, but if you have been feeling that something you used to do professionally isn't any longer there because that market has changed, technology has changed your role, there may be a need to be quite nimble about how you approach this. And one of the things I would say, despite the fact Capricorn can be very much to do with primary energy in terms of control, I feel if you can work with others in some kind of network or alliance, that's going to be very helpful to you, not just over the next month, but really over the next year and a half, because we are going to have the North Node, the true North Node, move into, for you, your sector of collaboration and cooperation at the end of July, but we are going to soon have the next solar eclipse, the 6th of 7th at 28 degrees, will be in your sector of friendships, connections and networks. So if you aren't quite sure about how this may play out, I think the solution may lie in your connections to someone else. The Taurus, you're someone with a real appreciation of continuity. But of course Uranus and Pluto over the last years have really been pushing you to change things up, which you may have done. But I feel this is a new moon which is asking you to step outside your comfort zone even more, because Uranus will make way from your zodiac sign. That will occur on the 26th of April, and he's not going to come back to you in your lifetime. Just know that, because it's an 84-year cycle. But what I would say is that because of the very positive alliance between Uranus in your sign and the Sun and Mars and Mercury, that's really very enterprising indeed. So even if you're someone who is a little bit risk averse, or maybe weighs things up very carefully, or likes to keep that sense of continuity because of the security it brings, there's a lot to be said through trying to find ways to inject your situation with greater variety. And we know that is the spice of life. So if you find yourself wanting to liberate yourself from something that's become stale, repetitive, and unenergizing, the next month can certainly give you the chance to do that. It just wouldn't be a surprise if it did include something to do with how you earn a living, because the arrival of your ruler Venus into your 10th house, very close to Pluto, suggests opportunities are going to play out over the next 6 months around your work because of the 6th of 7th new moons, which will occur on the 17th of February in Aquarius, will clash with Uranus. So if you're hanging on to something because you don't really want to make that change, you may find in a month's time that your hand could be a little bit forced. Even if it's not immediately, it could be over this next 7 months. So you have a chance to really take the initiative, and that's something that obviously gives us an opportunity to get ahead. So if you are thinking about something that maybe is fresh and different but exciting, and it may in some ways be collective because of the energies of Saturn and Neptune in your sector of friendship, well, that could be you're on the right track. But what about if you're in a situation where you don't feel your options are so easy to break free? Maybe it's a relationship, maybe there's children, property involved, and that can feel very oppressive if astrologers say, well, this is your big chance to change something. Life's not always that easy, is it? Or if we're in a job that we don't particularly like, or there's a line manager who's mean, but actually we're very good at it and we've got pension rights, we've been there a long time, it suits us in terms of other parts of our life, how can we approach that? Well, I feel the answer to that, Taurus, is through knowledge. So whatever you're facing at the moment, whether it's in a very enterprising way or a challenging way, the more information you get, the more it will help you to liberate yourself from the circumstances. So if you like your relationship to the relationship, even if it's not easy to make a physical change in the immediate next month. But I feel in the overall sense, this is an incredibly exciting new moon for you for sure. So Gemini, 8th house new moons are very much about transformation. That can be spiritually, financially, partnership-wise. It can be where we let go of things and things make way. It can also be where we become even more devoted or invested. So it has a real polarity to its energies. Because your ruler Mercury is in the mix and it's in Capricorn, I feel that does increase your critical faculties when it comes to trying to understand value, practical value. But because Mars is also in the mix, that can bring a sense of urgency to seize a golden prize, and that does need some careful handling. Now Uranus is also in your 12th house, so the subconscious part of this particular event can be very high for you personally. But then again, in a more positive way, old skills, talents and experiences can be redeployed in a positive way now. Just be aware that Venus, the planet of money and relating, has now moved into a part of your chart that's to do with higher principles and contracts, possibly to do with travel, and definitely to do with an attraction to someone who may be from a different background. But because it is in a conjunction with the planet of compulsion, Pluto, that energy of Mars, I think, is very strong for you on this event. So if you have felt frustrated since the Sun moved into Capricorn with the winter-summer solstice, depending on where you are in the world, on the 21st of December, because of the clash with Saturn and Neptune, you may feel that you're just within sight of having a breakthrough, but do understand what your motivations are, because with the 8th house energies at play, it's not just going to be down to you. Other people will want some control in this event as well. So whether it is someone you're drawn to and not quite sure why that is, if it is a brilliant business idea you've got, or you want to make more of the resources that lie between you and another person, just be aware that their needs and point of view are going to be in the mix too. So Cancer, for you, this is a new moon which speaks to relating, the 7th house. Or does it? Well, the 7th house can be about relationships and partnerships. It can be about harmony, but it can also be with Mars, particularly in the mix, where we set a boundary. And because Uranus is involved in this new moon, if you're connecting to people who have very similar ideologies to you, whether it is friendships through shared interests, whether it's through the kids, I feel that you can actually enjoy a real reinvigoration of some of those relationships, or there could be someone new who comes into your world over the next month. But because of the quick move that's going to go on to Aquarius, and because Venus, the ruler of the 7th house, is now in the 8th, which has more of a scorpionic vibe, the connections you have to have a deeper meaning, especially as Venus is aligned with Pluto. So as much as there may be someone that you're finding quite fascinating, there could be some nice dialogue going backwards and forwards, you're looking for a deeper meaning about what those connections are about. And in your professional situation, because you have had perhaps a tendency in the past when there has been conflict to withdraw a little bit, I feel that all the energies that have been going on this year have been encouraging you to really be firmer about your boundaries. And if you've been doing that, good for you. So there's lots of different scenarios that can play out on this particular new moon for you. If you are wanting to bring someone very special into your life romantically, obviously set your intentions about that. If you have got alliances in your world that you really value, and some of those pre-existing ones, maybe even someone you see as being an advisor. It could be someone who is an accountant, a solicitor, a life coach, a counsellor. It may be a friend who just has a good antenna for what goes on in the practical side of life. They're all very powerfully important on this particular event. But because of that Uranus energy, I do feel that the more idealistic part of your needs around relationships are going to come very much to the fore over the next 4 weeks. So Leo, for you, the Pluto years in Capricorn since 2008 full time, until he fully left in November 2024, was a lot of sacrifice, I feel, a lot of being aware of other people's needs. I don't feel always that gave you the opportunity to showcase and highlight your enormous talent and flair. You're going to get that chance later this year on August the 12th when there's a fabulous solar eclipse, total solar eclipse in your Zodiac sign. Jupiter's joining you at the end of June. When you have that solar eclipse, Jupiter and Mercury are in a very lucky conjunction. So there's lots to look forward to later this year. But I feel if you have been really carrying something, maybe being very responsible or disciplined in order that a situation prevails, yes, you could see the benefits of that now. For example, if since the turn of the year you've been very virtuous about what you've been eating and drinking, the exercise you've been doing, the next month you can see really firm results come through. But what about if you've been showing all that conscientiousness and sacrifice and being aware of the needs of others, but actually you don't feel very fulfilled? And that's where Uranus on this new moon, particularly as far as a job is concerned, is asking you to think, should I try something radically different? Because if just going through the processes doesn't mean to say you're not doing a good job, doesn't mean to say your colleagues or boss doesn't rate you, but if you're not feeling passion about where you spend most of your time, this new moon's asking you to redirect the discipline, the hard work, the application you've been showing for so long, but perhaps in a different way. And because Saturn's in the part of your chart to do with longer term or shared finances, you may be thinking about, can you use the precision of the 6th house new moon to try to squeeze a bit more from your assets, be a bit more thrifty in your approach? And the answer is yes, you can. But I think the one thing you really need to feel over the next 4 weeks, even the next half year, is that your connections to others within the sacrifice you're making is really meaningful. And if it's not, that's where there's going to be a big shift around all sorts of relationships for you. So Virgo, since the turn of the year, the cluster of energy in Capricorn has really been cheering you on to demonstrate to people just how talented you are, that you can not just be very hardworking, very aware of providing services to help others, and that discipline and precision that's so much part of your nature is fabulous. But do know, because in this new moon, your ruler Mercury is right in the mix, really encouraging you to show people just how much creativity and artistry you've got to share. Gets a major boost with this new moon, and Mars gives you a sense of thrust and urgency. But also, of course, you have had Saturn and Neptune, particularly through their retrogrades, whilst they've been in the sign of Pisces, not necessarily making it easy around relationships. And the eclipse series has featured both of them over the last 18 months. But actually on this event, they're very helpful. So you may find that people are more receptive to you than you might imagine. But I think it's Uranus that's the big clue. If you really want to change the paradigm, you may have to shift and do something that's more daring, because the fifth house is about speculation. Now, I'm not saying that you should punt all your money on something that's really not very clear, but speculating on your talent and ability. You know, if you don't feel fulfilled, the next month is a chance for you to really try to reset things in a much more dynamic and exciting way. So Libra, since the turn of the year, the cluster of energy in Capricorn has for you made you even more mindful of your home, emotional and family life, but also being protective about your need for security, physical or emotional. You may have made some decorative changes or some physical ones, some new furnishings. But how will this new moon play out for you? Well, I think it can be multifaceted, to be honest. It's possible that you will set in motion a change to where you live, that there's more to be done, whether it's in a current residency or relocating. But then again, it could be around your more social or even romantic connections, because Venus, your ruler, has moved into the most playful part of your chart, and one that is really going to boost your sense of attractiveness. She's also in a conjunction with Pluto, so something can really shift at the end of January. And if you do connect to someone you like, all these Capricornian energies are just reminding you of what you learned with Pluto making his way through Capricorn full-time since 2008 until its recent visits to Aquarius, which it's been in full-time since November 2024. So if you do get a chance to meet up with someone, you're going to be, yes, conscious of the practical dimension of it, Saturn and Neptune and the 6th, but also you're going to want to feel a connection, but it needs to really feel comfortable and right. And I think the balance between you being so attuned to the needs of others, which has been emphasised by Saturn and Neptune in your 6th house over the last couple of years, it really is time now for you to think of you. That doesn't mean to say you're selfish, it just means you're determined. And having Mars in the 4th house can help you to just be a little firmer on your boundaries. But you really are on the cusp of a much more playful, dynamic, in fact thrilling part of the year. In fact, I'll go as far to say the next 7 months can really reset your whole outlook. In fact, the rest of this year can be absolutely fabulous for you in terms of your connections to others, but all the time take it back to how it feels. Is it acceptable? Do you feel respected? Do I feel safe? So Scorpio, your word power since the turn of the year has been very, very strong. Of course, because we have had oppositions between the full moon and your traditional ruler of Mars, and also between Jupiter and Mars, Jupiter and the Sun. There may also also have been some very impassioned discussions, perhaps even outright disagreements. But your word power can definitely work to your advantage over the next month. If you're really inspired by something you want to share with other people, it's going to be very hard for people not to notice what you've got to say and just how persuasive, enthusiastic and inspirational you can be. This new moon gives you all of that, because Mercury for you is in the third house of clarity of thought and quick messages. Mars, your traditional ruler, is there, bringing a sense of thrust, urgency and excitement. It's fabulous. Uranus is in your sector of relating. You may connect to someone over the next month in a very quick way, which really gets your pulse racing, but they can be someone that is potentially important for the longer term, because of the more serious energy of Saturn stabilizes this event. But also be aware, with Venus, the relator, having moved into the most emotional part of your chart, connects into your modern ruler Pluto. Whoever you're attracted to, it needs to, of course, chime in terms of the feelings side of a situation, and where you live could still be a big part of this year's life story. Some of the conversations and discussions and ideas you have might be precisely about that. Home, the physical home, but also the home within you. So if you're discussing much more about how you feel, then that's a very good thing for a zodiac sign, which is very good at observing other people and making observations, but doesn't find it so easy to share how you feel at a deeper level. Sagittarius, this new moon is terrific if you're wanting to build up the platform and the foundations of your world when it comes to finance. And because Mars is in the mix, your desire to improve that part of your life is definitely strong, and has been since the middle of December, when Mars moved into Capricorn. Of course, Mars was then joined by the planet of money on the 24th, Christmas Eve, Venus, and they aligned exactly on the 8th of January in a very helpful way. But there may have been temptations around money, because your ruler Jupiter went face to face with the Sun and also Mars, and therefore you may have found yourself a bit impulsive here and there. But generally the theme for this year is, if you use your mind, your brilliant communicational skills and that passion you have for knowledge in the right kind of way, I feel the foundational parts of your life, as far as finance and security, can definitely pick up, and this new moon can help it. But what I would also say is that 4 times since 2019, Uranus has made creating patterns in your life very elusive. Now, last year for 4 months, Uranus moved into your sector of relating, and that will bring its own opportunities and challenges. But I feel that with Uranus in a very constructive link to this particular new moon, that part of you that can be very open to doing things in different ways, and because you are mutable, you can flex. If you can lean into that, you may actually just get onto something that does help you to finally get into a rhythm between now and the end of April, in a way which inspires but also gives you the stability that's so important for us all. So Capricorn, for you, a new moon in your zodiac sign that comes so late is intriguing, because if we go back to the Capricorn solstice on the 21st of December, it was challenged by your ruler Saturn and Neptune. So you may not have found it quite so easy to really gain traction with the individual ideas you wanted, despite the support of Mars and then Venus from the 24th of December. But now you do on this particular event, because your ruler is leaning into it, the depositor, it's receiving the energy of Mercury, Mars, the Sun and the Moon in such a constructive way. It's receiving them very, very positively. So your words, which at times may have felt to you were misunderstood over the last couple of years, now you're finding that other people know where you're coming from. They know that what you say is what you mean. But equally, if you still want to be inventive and progressive, themes that are not normally associated with Capricorns, Uranus is very helpful to you, because it's leaning into the new moon as well. But just be conscious, the planet of money, Venus, has now moved into your second house. Don't be surprised if towards the end of January your financial situation goes through a big shift, but it can be a very positive shift, provided you've done the hard work over a long period of time, because we're going through a period of culmination. But equally, if earning money needs to be in a new way, a fresh way, stepping out something that you have been very comfortable in, perhaps something that has been more traditional for some while, this is the opportunity to walk through that celestial door, taking the best of your sign, which is your experience, which is your knowledge, which is your ability to slow things down and look at what the real issues are rather than what they appear to be. You can still take all that with you and show, together with a progressive approach of all that energy in Aquarius, that there is a new way forward for you, or ideas that you've been working on, not necessarily just since the sun moved into your sign, but over recent months, can now start to crystallize. So Aquarius, it's a 12th house new moon, and 12th house new moons are not usually easy, but it's a 12th house new moon which actually is in a conjunction with Venus and not that far away from Pluto in your zodiac sign. And therefore there is a commonality between your sign in Capricorn, obviously through Saturn being the ruler of both, but I feel that something may be coming to a close, and it may be something that's been a long old road. Perhaps it's very psychological. Maybe it's been understanding yourself at a deeper level. Perhaps it's working behind the scenes. Perhaps it's in a big institution that you've been very dedicated in. But you're going to emerge from what has been a very valuable but not necessarily easy phase of your life into the celestial sunshine. And it's all going to happen over the next week. But what's intriguing, as much as 12th house energy can be very bruising because we find out who's not with us, who may have issues with us, who may disappoint us, let us down. Ever since Pluto first moved into your sign in March 23 for 10-11 weeks, and then on the 21st of January 24 through to the 1st of September that year, and then back into Aquarius in November 24, but really you've been slowly but surely moving into your power, and that power is going to be amplified in the most glorious, glittering, incredible ways over the next week. But you do need to be at peace with the stuff you've been working on for some years, but particularly through that Pluto transition through your 12th solar house. So there's a lot to go for, and if you've really done the work, you're about to reap the reward. So Pisces, for you, the cluster of energy in Capricorn is very much about your future, your long-term plan. And when the sun first moved its way into Capricorn with the winter solstice, summer solstice in the south, you may have felt a bit inhibited. Something you wanted may have seemed out of reach, or there were complications. It just wasn't easy at all. But what you get now is where there seem to be obstacles, now things can open up. But because Venus, the relator, has joined Pluto in your 12th house, you're still going to become much more conscious of who you can really rely upon. So I think some transitions are going on in relationships. People that you were friendly with in the past may not be people you will be close to in the future, but new and dynamic people can come in. The other thing is that Saturn and perhaps Neptune to some degree have really weakened your immune system. Your energy has been very low generally over the last couple of years. You've had to be much more focused on limiting your connection to others. I think this new moon gives you an opportunity to reconnect to others, but it needs to be the right people. The other thing I'd say to you is that Capricorn is very much the sign of physical culmination. You may reach some kind of breakthrough at this point, but as you get there, realise that you've shifted. You want something different. So there is a very big psychological theme about to enter your chart, and you can connect to people who have a great interest in personal development, counselling, healing. All of those areas can be lit up for you over the coming months, but I think it's the quality of your connections that you're really going to be examining at this time.